Ma'am, step aside. Ava barely processes the words before a firm hand gestures her away from the conveyor belt. TSA Officer Reynolds' stare is hard, evaluating, as if he already knows she's guilty of something, but of what? She glances back. A white woman, with an overstuffed carry-on, shuffles past unchecked. Behind her, a man whose laptop triggered an alert is waved through after a quick nod. No extra screening, no questions. Ava tightens her grip on the handle of her bag. Is there a problem? Her voice is measured, controlled. Reynolds folds his arms. Just a routine check. Routine? She glances at the endless stream of passengers, breezing past security. I didn't set off the scanner. His expression doesn't waver. Step aside. The unspoken words hang between them. She swallows her irritation and moves as instructed. But inside, a familiar anger simmers. Routine check, or something else. Ava watches as a TSA agent, different from Reynolds but just as indifferent, unzips her carry-on. No explanation, no courtesy, just invasion. Is there an issue with my bag? She asks, forcing patience. Random selection, the agent mutters, rifling through her neatly folded clothes. Random? Ava almost laughs, because it's never random. She catches Reynolds' gaze. He doesn't look away, doesn't flinch. A beep. She turns her head just in time to see a white businessman set off the scanner. Sorry, sir. Just step back for a moment. The agent pats him down. A few seconds, quick, casual, then waves him through. Ava exhales sharply. So, you're telling me I got picked by chance? The TSA officer doesn't answer. Instead, he pulls out her toiletries, inspecting them like contraband. A murmur from behind her. Why is it always them? She doesn't turn, doesn't react, but her hands curl into fists. Arms out. Ava hesitates. The agent's hands are already on her, firm, forceful, moving over her arms, down her sides. No care, no hesitation. She stiffens. Is this necessary? The agent doesn't respond. Instead, he presses against her pockets, slides over her waist. The touch isn't just invasive, it's meant to remind her of her place. A metallic clatter, her laptop tossed onto the table carelessly. It nearly skids off the edge. Hey. She reaches for it, but a hand clamps over her wrist. Mom, stay still. Stay still. Heat crawls up her neck. Not just from anger, but from the weight of the stairs. Some passengers avert their eyes. Others don't bother hiding their amusement. Look at her face. Someone chuckles. Like she's shocked. Another voice. Probably got something in that bag. They always do. Ava forces her breathing steady. The agent flips through her passport like it's a fake, pausing as if searching for something incriminating. He finds nothing, because there is nothing. Yet, he takes his time, dragging it out, making it hurt. A woman clutches her purse tighter. An older black man shakes his head, lips pressed together, but he says nothing. Someone whispers, "Drama queen." The businessman behind her sighs loudly. You people always cause trouble. Ava blinks, heartbeat hammering. You people. She grits her teeth, willing herself not to react, because reacting is what they want. A TSA officer shoves her back forward. You can go? The words feel like an afterthought, like she's been dismissed, but not before they made their point. She exhales slowly, deliberate, measured. Years of training, of patience, of forced silence. All of it keeps her still. But inside, she's done. This wasn't security protocol. It wasn't safety measures. It was humiliation. And she refuses to let it slide. Not this time. Twice as hard, half the credit. You expect me to believe you wrote this? The teacher's voice was laced with doubt, her eyes scanning the essay like it contained hidden secrets. Ava, all of 10 years old, sat still, fingers gripping the desk. Yes, I did. A scoff, a shake of the head. Well, we'll see what the plagiarism checker says. It wasn't the first time, wouldn't be the last. At home, her mother reviewed the graded paper, an A- with a note in red ink. Next time, try writing it yourself. You know what this means, right? Her mother's voice was steady, but her eyes were tired. Ava nodded. Work twice as hard. Get half the credit. Her father chimed in, his tone firm. And when they doubt you, you let your excellence speak for itself. She did. Again and again. But excellence, she learned, was never quite enough. Your report is the most comprehensive we've seen. You've outdone yourself. Ava looked up, waiting for the but. It came, right on cue. But we're going with Hendrix's analysis on this one. You understand, right? She understood. Hendrix, a man who had barely skimmed the surface of the intelligence briefing, would get the credit. Again. Whispers trailed her in the corridors of the CIA headquarters. Diversity hire, quota filler. They didn't know about the sleepless nights, the field missions that left her bruised but undefeated. They only saw what they wanted to see. You're too good for this place, her mentor once told her. No, she had replied. This place is lucky to have me. She stayed. Not for them, but for every black girl who was told she wasn't enough. The airport buzzed with travelers, each lost in their own urgency. Ava moved with purpose, her ID tucked securely in her pocket. This mission mattered. Classified intelligence, high stakes, and a timetable that left no room for error. Yet, as she stepped towards security, she felt the shift before it happened. The slow, deliberate scrutiny. The unspoken assumption. She watched as a white man, juggling an overstuffed bag, breezed through with nothing more than a nod. A TSA officer locked eyes with her. Ma'am, step aside. Here we go again. Ava tightened her grip on her passport. No matter how many borders she crossed, how many operations she completed, she was still this to them. A suspect before a citizen. She exhaled, steadying herself. Is there a reason I'm being pulled aside? Her voice was controlled, measured, a dismissive shrug. Random selection. Random. Right, she'd spent her life preparing for battles that others never had to fight. Today would be no different. She stepped forward and let the game begin. Excuse me, sir. Please step over here for additional screening. Ava barely flinches at the words. She's heard them too many times before. The young black man in front of her hesitates before stepping aside. A white businessman, his overstuffed bag straining at the seams, breezes through without a second glance. Her gaze sharpens. It's happening again. A second black traveler is stopped, then another. A Latino woman fumbles with her ID as a TSA agent rifles through her purse with unnecessary force. Meanwhile, a group of tourists, their carry-ons bulging, stroll through security without so much as a raised eyebrow. Ava exhales slowly, her fingers tightening around her passport. This isn't random. It never is. A huff of frustration cuts through the tense silence. Some of us have places to be. A woman behind Ava mutters, shifting her weight impatiently. Her manicured fingers tap against her designer purse. Ava doesn't turn around, but she can feel the woman's annoyance, like an itch at the back of her neck. A heavy sigh follows, then a pointed, "They always hold up the line." They. Ava clenches her jaw. The words settle over her skin like an old wound reopening. The irony isn't lost on her. She's the one being detained, the one facing scrutiny. And yet somehow, she's the inconvenience. Step over here, ma'am. Ava meets Officer Reynolds' gaze. His smirk is small, smug. Why? Her voice is calm, controlled. I already cleared security. His eyes flicker with amusement. Just a routine check, unless you have something to hide. Ava feels the heat of nearby stares. A few officers snicker under their breath, their whispers carrying the unmistakable weight of judgment. This isn't protocol. This is something else. She squares her shoulders. You just let that man through with an overstuffed bag. What made me a threat and not him? Reynolds shrugs. Like I said, routine. You can cooperate or we can do this the hard way. The unspoken threat lingers between them. Ava knows how this game is played. She's been here before. Ava grips the handle of her carry-on, steadying herself against the tide of memories. Being followed in high-end stores, side-eyed glances when using her corporate card, the doubt in her professor's eyes when she aced exams, the unspoken rule, work twice as hard, be twice as perfect, and maybe, just maybe, you'll be seen as enough. But not today, not here. Her pulse steadies, her expression unreadable. She's not here to make a scene. She's here to make a point. Arms out. Now, step aside. Again. Reynolds' smirk is small but unmistakable. Ava doesn't move. Not yet. She scans his face, searching for any sign that this is about protocol and not something more insidious. But she already knows this isn't security, it's power. Arms out, the female officer instructs, snapping on latex gloves. No warmth, no hesitation, just procedure, wielded like a weapon. Ava inhales sharply and complies. The officer's hands press hard against her torso, dragging over her arms and legs with deliberate force. Fingers push through her hair, yanking at the curls. The message is clear. There is no dignity here. Across the room, a mother shields her child's eyes. A businessman tightens his grip on his briefcase. Others glance, then quickly avert their gaze, as if looking too long will make them complicit. Ava grits her teeth. She will not give them the satisfaction of seeing her flinch. A laugh. Low at first, then louder. Yo, check this out. A young man lifts his phone, angling it just right. Ava doesn't have to turn to know. The video's already spreading in his mind. A woman being difficult. Another viral clip with no context. Just an image for people to gawk at, to mock, to twist. A muffled chuckle, a whispered joke. Every second stretches into an eternity. The female officer tugs at Ava's waistband, snapping it back into place like a final insult. She burns. Not from the search itself, but from the silence. Ma'am, your behavior is raising red flags. Ava's eyes snap to the officer speaking. This one, another man, voice laced with something just short of accusation. Louder than necessary. Loud enough for heads to turn. A chill runs through her. A calculated move. Branding her, marking her, ensuring that even when she walks away from this moment, it follows her. You've given us reason to believe. Reason? The word slips before she can stop it, her voice razor sharp. I've done nothing. A ripple of unease passes through the watching crowd. Someone shifts away. Another clutches their bag tighter. Fear. It's spreading, and it's not hers. Ava forces herself to breathe, to control the fire rising inside her. This is unacceptable. Her voice is level, but firm. The officers exchange glances. One shrugs, another smirks. Calm down, ma'am. It's not a suggestion, it's a warning. Ava exhales, slow and measured. Her heart pounds in her ears, fists tight at her sides. But something inside her shifts. Enough. Ava inhales slowly, steadying herself. Every instinct screams at her to lash out, to demand justice. But she's learned that power isn't in outrage, it's in control. She reaches into her wallet, fingers brushing over the cold, polished surface of her badge. Then, with calculated precision, she pulls it free and sets it on the table between them. I'd like to speak to your supervisor, she says, her voice even but edged with quiet authority. Reynolds' smirk falters. The agent beside him glances at the badge, then at Ava, his posture shifting uneasily. A flicker of recognition crosses his face. The fluorescent lights above reflect off the golden emblem of the CIA. Ava lets the silence stretch, watching as the weight of their mistake sinks in. Reynolds blinks, his lips parting, but no words come. The arrogance that fueled his actions drains from his face. You're with the CIA? He stammers, eyes darting between Ava and the other TSA agents. Ava folds her arms. Problem? The female agent, who had just frisked her, steps back, her hands twitching, as if resisting the urge to physically distance herself from the disaster unfolding. Passengers who once pretended not to notice now lean in, eyes wide. The murmurs grow. The tide shifts. Ava tilts her head slightly, studying Reynolds the way she would a suspect breaking under pressure. "Do you have any idea what you've done?" she asks, enunciating each word with slow precision. Reynolds swallows hard. His Adam's apple bobs in his throat. "You just unlawfully detained and publicly humiliated a federal agent," she continues. The room is utterly silent now. Even the security officers who had chuckled earlier shift uneasily, realizing they aren't just dealing with another traveler. They're dealing with a woman who holds more power than they anticipated. Ava turns her gaze to the passengers still watching. Some look guilty, some look fascinated, but all of them look like they finally see her. Ava moves slowly, deliberately, as she reaches for her phone. She doesn't need to bluff. The number is real. The consequences are real. "Shall I call my director?" she muses, scrolling through her contacts with practiced ease. The TSA supervisor, a man who had stayed back while Reynolds led the charge, suddenly surges forward, nearly tripping over himself. "Ma'am, there's no need for that," he says quickly, his voice tight with panic. Ava raises an eyebrow. "No need?" Silence. Then a frantic exchange of glances between the officers. No one wants to take the fall, but it's already too late. Reynolds shakes his head rapidly, desperation seeping into his voice. I was just following procedure." Ava exhales sharply, unimpressed. "Procedure?" His jaw twitches. He's scrambling, trying to salvage what's left of his authority, but the room is against him now. "Then you won't mind explaining this to Washington yourself," Ava states coolly, slipping her phone back into her pocket. Reynolds visibly pales. His hands clench, his gaze darting toward his colleagues for support, but no one steps forward. Passengers whisper. The ones who had once dismissed her now watch with something dangerously close to admiration. And Ava? She simply stands there, unshaken, as the walls around Reynolds begin to close in. "Hand over your badges." The supervisor's voice cuts through the tension like a blade. "Hand over your badges." A hush falls over the terminal. The demand echoes, weighted with finality. Reynolds stiffens. "Sir, Now." The supervisor's tone is ice cold, leaving no room for argument. One by one, the agents comply, removing their badges with trembling fingers. The weight of their actions finally sets in. A uniformed officer steps forward to collect them. The sound of metal clicking against metal punctuating the moment. "There will be an investigation," the supervisor announces, his glare piercing. "And I can promise you this isn't going away." Ava watches, arms crossed, unreadable. This is justice but not closure. Not yet. Somewhere in the crowd, a different hand holds up a phone. But this time, it's not for mockery. The video spreads fast. By the time Ava reaches her gate, her phone buzzes non-stop. Racial profiling at TSA is trending. New headlines flood in. Federal agent profiled and humiliated at airport. News outlets demand answers. Officials scramble for damage control. The airport issues a weak statement. "We do not tolerate discrimination." But the people aren't buying it. Tens of thousands comment, their own stories filling the replies. "This happened to me too. Same airport, same treatment." Enough is enough. Ava scrolls through, jaw tight. The fight isn't over. But this time, the world is watching. Ava's inbox overflows. Strangers, allies, young black professionals, all with the same message. "Because of you, I won't stay silent." One stands out. "You showed me I don't have to shrink myself to survive." She exhales, a slow, measured breath. This fight was never just about her. It never is. This isn't just my story. Ava exhales, steadying herself before speaking. The weight of everything that happened still lingers, but she refuses to let it end here. "This isn't just my story," she says, voice calm but unshakable. "How many times does this happen to those without power, without a camera, without a way to fight back. She lets the silence stretch, allowing the question to settle. This can't be another headline that fades away. We can't let the conversation stop here. Your voice matters. She leans forward slightly, her gaze unwavering. Have you ever faced discrimination, racial profiling, injustice? Her voice holds a quiet challenge. Share your story in the comments. Let the world hear you. A pause. Then, firm and resolute. Like, share, and subscribe, because awareness is just the first step.